30 to 40% of the time that's going to fix it. Might need a calibration. Everybody always asks me, how often should I calibrate my JCM WBA? If you want the standard JCM answer, the answer is when you notice a marked reduction in acceptance. Oh, in other words, if it's not taking bills, try calibrating it. I don't know which genius came up with that one. I'd say at a minimum, I'd want to try and calibrate them in a normal situation like here in Las Vegas with the throughput of bills that you have here, maybe 6 to 9 months, just to be on the safe side. You can probably get away with it longer than that, but if you're doing it 6 to 9 months, you're not going to have a calibration issue with them. Always make sure you clean it before you calibrate it. You can calibrate dirt into the calibration. If you don't clean the lenses properly, you throw the calibration paper in there, it now recognizes it with that amount of dirt, which is fine because now it's calibrated, but the next guy comes along, he cleans them, he just uncalibrated your validator for you. Calibration, pretty simple. On the side of the validator, we got 8 little dip switches. Everybody knows where those are at. Anybody not worked with a WBA before? Anybody not been through the class before? Okay, I got a few of you. On the side, you got 8 dip switches. They're numbered 1 through 8 from the back to the front. That's because they mounted the board upside down. So they are numbered left to right. You just have to turn the board right side up if you want to see the numbers that way. Number 8's all the way in the front. Number 1's all the way in the back. If you turn on the last 4 dip switches, numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, that's the 4 all the way towards the front, push them down, you're now in calibration mode. Doesn't have to be in a frame for calibration. You just have to power it up. It's going to cycle. That's a little noisy. Take your calibration paper. If you have DVB 200s yet, a lot of casinos still have 200s around on the floor. There's 2 types of calibration paper. Make sure you don't use the wrong one. WBA has 2 holes in it. That's how you recognize it. That's not what the holes are for. The holes are there because this is the same calibration paper we used to use on the DVB 145s. How many of you remember those? You still love them, don't you? Isn't that a wonderful piece of gear? Yeah, especially calibrating them. 16 little potentiometers, 19 adjustments. It was a lot of fun. But that's where the paper came from. The little piece of plastic, that's what the holes were from. There's a difference in the paper. The 200 came out after the WBA. WBA came out in 1997. The 200 didn't come out until 99 or 2000. 2000, I think it was. Late 99. It was right near the tail end of 99. What they did was, when the WBA came out, we improved the sensor package. Compared to a DVB 145, there's a lot more sensors in there. We're looking at a lot more information. 14 optical readings, 3 magnetic readings that were taken off the bill. Every 4 milliseconds, 128 readings across the surface of the bill. When we came out with a 200, that was a plug-and-play replacement. People like the features of the WBA. They like the improved sensor package. They like the self-calibration. They like the onboard diagnostics. But the majority of machines out there were using the 145 at that time. They weren't going to get rid of those machines. I mean, you ask a manufacturer how long is a slot machine supposed to last, they'll tell you 8 to 10 years. That's the life cycle of a slot machine. Then you sell it, destroy it, whatever, buy a new one. You ask a casino owner what's the life cycle of a slot machine, and it's right up until no one will put one more nickel in that thing. They're expensive. New slot machines are what, $18,000, $20,000 a piece right now. So they wanted to keep them around, but they had these 145s, and they wanted the upgraded sensor package. So we created the DVB 200. We took the sensor package, the onboard diagnostics, self-calibration, all those features that everybody liked in the WBA, and basically we put it in a 145 case, painted it black, and it's a DVB 200. You get the same sensors, you get the same onboard diagnostics, better bill recognition, but it's retrofittable to your older machines that still were using the older 145 platform. The calibration paper is almost identical, but just slightly different. The black side is just black construction paper. That's the same. The white part is actually a mylar plastic film with a powder coating impregnated on it. It's called an IR coefficient. It's for the infrared sensors. It's what's used for calibrating the infrareds. There's a little bit of difference, a little more coating on the 200 paper than there is on the WBA. If you use 200 paper in your WBA, it will calibrate and it will accept bills. You will notice a little bit of a reduction, probably 4 or 5% acceptance rate reduction on your 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. You'll lose about 40% of your 50s and 100s. So if you've got a WBA out there that all of a sudden is having problems with 50s and 100s, or a 200 that's all of a sudden having a problem with 50s and 100s but accepts everything else, recalibrate it. Somebody may have used the wrong paper. So we've set our 4 dip switches, powered it up, it cycles, feed the black paper in. It's going to take a look at it back and forth a few times. What it's doing is it's making adjustments. It's trying to bring the sensors back to a null level, a preset calibration level. And the way it does that is it raises or lowers the voltage going to the LEDs. Basically, you got an LED on one side, phototransistor on the other. Depending on how much light gets through that paper, it develops a certain voltage. It's looking for a preset known voltage, what we set for calibration. And it just raises and lowers the voltage, making that LED brighter or darker, till it gets all the sensors to the calibration level that it wants. Then it spits the paper out, writes it to an E-square on the lower sensor board of the validator head, and you're done. If you're looking at your, where are we at here? Oh, I'm using the wrong power supply. Figures. If you got it in the game and you're calibrating it, watch your bezel lights. Your bezel lights are hooked to the same circuit that this is. When it completes calibration, you're going to get a rapid set of pulses. Real fast flash. That's just letting you know that it's completed calibration. It's written it to the E-square. It's okay to go ahead and reset the dip switches back to their original position.
Is there a set time limit or number of times that you push that
No.
paper in and out before?
I've seen it do it in as few as 3 tries. I've seen it take as many as 15 and not complete calibration the first time around. Basically, it depends on how far out it was, because when it's making those adjustments, changing that voltage, it's doing it in very small increments. So depending on how far out it was, it may do it 3, 4, it may take it 10, 12. I've actually had some of them where it didn't calibrate the first time, reset power, try it again, and it will complete the calibration on the second.
Is there a maximum number of times
That it will try? Yes. Is it 12? Have you? It's right around that number, 12, 13, something like that. If it can't finish, it'll spit it out and it'll give you an error code.
what's the lifetime of the paper?
This stuff, as long as you can keep it clean. Yeah, the only problem you're going to have with the calibration paper, number one, never try and handle the white part with your fingers because you got oils in your skin and stuff. It'll get on there. Make sure you don't have dirty hands ever when you're cleaning it, coin dust and stuff like that. As long as you keep the white part of the paper clean and you cannot clean it. I had one guy said, oh yeah, whenever that gets dirty, we just take a little alcohol, clean it off. Problem is you're also taking that coating that we put on it off. Basically what I do, take it right there at the tape, fold it there. No sensor ever takes a look at that, so you're not hurting anything. Take your little flip book that's in your handout pack there, put it inside your flip book, put a rubber band around it, that'll keep it flat, it'll keep it clean. I've done well over 1,000 machines with one piece of paper, easily. We got salesmen who love to sell things to the local casinos out here, and one of their biggest sales point is, we'll come out and calibrate your whole floor. Of course, then they tell customer service that 2 days later, oh, by the way, Friday, you got to go out and calibrate the California for me. Done it more than once. If it has a problem with calibration, if it can't reach calibration, instead of getting that rapid pulse, and I'm just going to simulate a problem here by feeding the paper backwards, it's going to give you a code. Where are we at? There we go. Certain number of pulses, then it's going to pause, and then it's going to repeat the code. In this case, we're getting 5. Should be 5. Gain error. Gain error. White level adjustment. If you fed the paper correctly, replace the upper sensor board. Basically, they build a lot of onboard stuff to tell you, hey, if you get this number of flashes, this is the error code, this is what's wrong. That's the one thing I like about this. So cleaning calibration, that's the best way to keep a validator up. Cleaning, whenever it gets dirty. If you're going to start up a PM program, you want to take a look at them at least once every 6 months. Trying to get your boss to start that I know is next to impossible. But calibration, yeah, if it needs it, like I said, again, at a minimum, I try and do it once every 6 to 9 months, just to be on the safe side. I've seen units that have been out there for a year, but they're in casinos that don't get the throughput that you get here in